Verlaine, I'm on my way up to the bridge.
Okay, we're back on the Torrens. We got to meet Verlaine on the bridge. Luckily, Ripley hit the airlock dead on. Where is she? Where is the airlock? Oh, it must be through here. Anyway. So, for some reason, we can't change out of our space suit. We got to... Nope, that's medical. We gotta just trudge our way through to the bridge wearing our spacesuit. I mean, they can't, like, put it in here, right here? I guess not. Yeah, well, there's another airlock. Okay. Well, it stands to reason they would have two, so...
Verlaine?
It's quiet. Too quiet. Let's see what the use button does. Uh-oh. There's one on board. I guess it must have gotten Verlaine. And we're backing into the airlock right here. There's the jettison button. Well, luckily we're still in our spacesuit because we just ejected ourselves and the alien out into space. Oh, this game is dedicated to the memory of Simon Franco, our friend and colleague, 1978 to 2014. Well, Simon Franco is actually one of the programmers of the game who passed away in June of 2014 from cancer. Anyway, so that was Alien Isolation. I first played this game in January 2015, shortly after it came out in October of the previous year. So following my original playthrough, I rated the game as a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, which is a pretty good score on my scale. So it's been 10 years since I played this game, and having done more research on the game, its story, and playing through it again, albeit now on a normal difficulty versus the hard difficulty, I can say that my opinion of the game has improved quite a bit. I still have some frustrations with the game, but we'll get to those in just a little bit. So I'm actually just increasing my overall score to the game to a solid 8 out of 10. I still hold that this is one of the best Alien games that have been made thus far, if not the best itself. Whereas the earlier Aliens games, like Aliens Colonial Marines, just fell flat and failed. And this one succeeded, if only because the developers actually knew what they were going for and they had a clear, coherent vision for the game. So we'll see how Alien Isolation 2 turns out, assuming that it doesn't get canceled, because it was recently announced by Creative Assembly. So on the positive side, this game exquisitely captures the atmosphere of the Alien universe, particularly the first film, which is obviously what they were going for. Everything from the environment, the props, the atmosphere, the lighting, the mood, the music, etc., it's just spot on, and it literally feels like you're in the original Alien film, but playing it in an interactive version. Of course, it adds other environments and characters, which still feel like they're actual Alien characters, and it remains true to the overall Alien lore. The fact, of course, is that the people in this universe live in a very unforgiving, fictional universe. The Alien universe is a crapsack world where big greedy corporations only care about their profits and nothing about their actual people. It's always the corporate executives looking out for number one and the bottom line. All safety and ethical considerations be damned. I think they really nailed it. It creates a gloomy, despairing, and oppressive world that the Alien universe is known for. You're all just little people, and if the company doesn't kill you by working you to death, then their little fantasy projects will. They obviously care more about the xenomorphs than you, and you just happen to be in their way of them getting an alien for their bioweapons division. They don't care how they get it, and they don't care if they lose you to this ferocious monster in the process. crew is all expendable, as it's said. In terms of gameplay, the first-person survival horror aspect is really well done. The feeling of the alien stalking you through the environments, which are all laid out pretty well, is absolutely terrifying. If this were a third-person game, which from my understanding was one of the original design concepts, then I don't think it would feel nearly as immersive. The first-person perspective really does it. Now, in terms of negatives, I found the behavior of the alien to be a bit heavy-handed at times. Specifically, the alien stomps around and makes a lot of noise, so you always have like an aural, like a audio cue to know when it's about and around. Obviously, this was done for gameplay reasons, but naturally in the films, these things move around silently. Now, near the end of the game, the alien actually, as I said, became more of this boogeyman than a genuine threat. So when I first played the game, I turned down the difficulty from hard at various times to like easy or normal because I got so annoyed with constantly getting killed over and over and over by this thing, and I just wanted to make progress through the game. Now, interestingly, you don't actually face the alien for a good chunk of the game, especially in the middle sections of the game. Now, I kind of came to this realization replaying it this time, so this was obviously so the player doesn't get fatigued out from playing the game. So if you're constantly facing this extreme, deadly threat, then either you just kind of get used to it and becomes really boring, or it becomes so difficult to progress through the game that you just give up as a player. It's like, fine, just throw down your controller and say, I'm not playing this anymore. I can't get past this one part. So the game is obviously paced and designed in such a way to provide you with some breather missions. Sometimes you're running around being stalked by the alien and you're just sweating bullets, but of course you complete the mission and the next mission or two are much calmer and much more you dealing with lesser threats or facing no threats. So maybe you're just dealing with androids or humans, or you're just solving puzzles and making it through the environment. So that was an obvious gameplay decision to give you some breather missions, so you don't have to constantly just get stressed out, because this game can get really stressful indeed. While the artificial intelligence of the alien is really, really good, in researching the game's AI development and how it was made, it kind of shows that the game is rubber banding the alien to your position. Again, because the game director knows where the alien and you are at all times. And furthermore, there are also triggers throughout the game where the alien or aliens are scripted to appear, such as from when dropping down from vents at certain places. And people have actually figured out these scripted events and their triggers, and they've dove into how the alien behavior tree works. So in that respect, once you kind of figure out those triggers and figure out how the alien behavior works, it does kind of remove some of the tension from the game. Still, there are times when the alien does become unpredictable, but these are obviously in certain areas of the game where the maps are fairly large and they allow the alien and you to have ample space to move around and multiple pathways through the area and you to play cat and mouse with the alien. Of course, remember that this is the first game in what we'll assume is kind of a series, and so we'll have to see how the second game refines and builds upon the mechanics and the AI of this game. The fact that normal firearms don't harm the alien, I also found a little bit annoying. Now, I know in the game's universe, the pistol and the shotgun are meant to fire lower velocity ammunition to prevent overpenetration and damage to the space station, but the fact is that we're stuck with just warding off the alien with flamethrower fuel and an improvised explosive devices. I found that a little gimmicky, you might say. I mean, when you chuck a pipe bomb at an android, it'll destroy it, but yet this explosive device, this pipe bomb, doesn't do diddly squat against the alien except just make it go away. So the fact that you couldn't do damage or kill the alien at all meant that it was basically an invincible NPC. And again, I've learned that the alien, I think, actually does have a health bar, but it's massive. Like, you'll never live long enough to actually kill the thing. So I guess it would just be too unfair to give the player a pulse rifle with 10mm explosive tip caseless ammunition, right? Like the Marines have. But I think maybe a better mechanic would have been if you shot the alien at close range enough times with a shotgun or something, then either it would like spray acid blood all over you and you would kill you that way, or you could eventually just drive it off if you just completely burn through the shotgun magazine. Just fire 4 shots into it from a shotgun, and eventually that would drive it off, in addition to the flamethrower. But then again, you have to make it so that the alien appeared much more around the missions. That being said, you do actually get injured from the acid blood in the game, but not severely. All being said, I think that there's a lot that can be done with this game's engine. I think it's a very clever way they built the game engine around the alien and its AI, and to be honest, I would like to see something like, this would be a great engine to use with like a Terminator themed game, like take place in the Terminator universe. To me, that would make more sense because, you could have like, a survival horror game with a T-800 Model 101 Terminator stalking you, and you can shoot all you want, but you can't harm it with normal weapons. So that would make more sense to me, but we know that firearms can indeed kill aliens, but for some reason these ones can't in the Alien universe, or at least the weapons on Sevastopol. Another gameplay mechanic that got a little bit on my nerves was the constant mini-games and the quick-time events. The hold right trigger, press this button on the controller to open doors and work the machinery and do this, that, and the other. And at times, the game, like many survival horror games, did kind of boil down to a bunch of fetch quests. Like, go here, flip this switch, start the generator, turn this machine on, go back over here, you gotta find the key code to open this door, get the key card to unlock this, do that, flip more switches, unlock these doors, yada 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 to progress. And in this regard, the game really doesn't bring anything new to the table in terms of survival horror, apart from the fact that the alien just has really good AI behaviors. So, and the programming of the alien AI is just really good. So, but other than that, it's, the game's kind of riding off the fact that it takes place in the alien universe. You're dealing with an extremely hostile enemy, and the AI programming for it is really good. This could really just be like a Silent Hill game or, Resident Evil or something, but nope, it just happens to take place in the Alien universe. Although I do believe the game is considered canonical to the Alien universe, I do sometimes question the canonicity, you might say, of this game, seeing as how it takes place between the first and second films. I'm assuming at the end when the light comes over Amanda Ripley's face that she was rescued. By who? I don't know. But we know that Weyland-Yutani purchased Sevastopol Station shortly before the arrival of the Torrens, but even the entire loss of a station and a whole bunch of people on it seems like it would be difficult to cover up, you know what I mean? Maybe it's just one of those things that Weyland-Yutani just kind of swept under the rug. Oh yeah, Sevastopol, that never happened. Don't know what you're talking about. We don't know anything about that. Amanda Ripley, yeah, she's just some crazy person. Claims she said she saw some weird hostile creature and she had some encounter with it. Yeah, don't know anything about that either. With Amanda Ripley being the only survivor, we have to question, would she really have kept quiet all this time? Now, I think there are comics and there are novels and there's expanded material in this universe that go into what Amanda does after the events of this game and between here and her death, just prior to Aliens. That being said, I'm not really interested in that material, so I'm only really just playing this for the game. So again, we'll just have to wait and see what the second game does, assuming that the second game still features Amanda Ripley as the protagonist. Now, in my initial LP of this game, I did have some issues with the game's pacing. I felt that it dragged on in some areas and thought that maybe an hour or so could have probably been cut from the game. Now, granted that the game is supposed to be relatively slow, and much like the first Alien film, it's meant to be a slow burner. But parts in the middle of it, or near the end, did feel a little bit excessive, like it was getting a bit long in the tooth. That said, now that I played this game again and gotten all the collectibles, of course, not all the achievements, but the collectibles at least, I feel that the game actually, it's a pretty good length. You get a good amount of play out of this game, so it's a pretty good story. Maybe some parts are still a little bit long and could be excised or shortened, but I don't have as much of an issue with the pacing now as I did previously, 10 years ago. Now, some people do get really annoyed with the save mechanic of the game, but honestly, I never had a problem with the save mechanic. It felt very much like a throwback to the older games of like the 90s, before every damn game out there had an autosave feature. I mean, heck, even today, most apps, whether you're, working on Google Docs or something or something like that, they automatically save your work. But listen, kids, I'm a millennial, so I remember back in the day when before there was autosave and when the motto was save early, save often. So I remember those days. So to me, this game is just a throwback to that. So that's pretty much all I have for the negatives of this game. The general science fiction horror elements and aspects of the game were spot on. And while it may not be the most revolutionary of survival horror games, I think we can safely say that this is probably the best Aliens game that we've seen in a very, very long time. Creative Assembly really nailed it, which is kind of interesting considering that it came from a studio that's largely known for the Total War series. Now, I've never played any of the Total War games, but I hear they are pretty good. But still, this game is kind of a gem. It's very interesting. Overall, I enjoyed it. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. The atmosphere, the smart AI programming of the alien, and the gameplay mechanics really meshed well together and created a really good science fiction horror experience that just spot on captured the alien universe with precision. So I'm pretty excited to see how the sequel turns out. Now, there is more to this game as well, like the survival mode DLC packs, where you can play as different characters and you kind of see the story from different perspectives. Like, there's one where you play as Axel, another way you play as Ransom, or another way you play as the original crew of the Nostromo, and you try to accomplish various objectives as they're trying to get rid of the alien on the Nostromo. But I may eventually take a look at some of those. From my understanding, there's no difficulty setting for those, so they might get kind of frustratingly tough. I think those DLC packs really require you to just play and die and almost have a kind of a trial and error style of gameplay to them, where you have to really memorize the map to know all the routes and ways and nooks and crannies around the map to kind of, outthink and outmaneuver the alien. We'll see. Maybe I'll do some of them, maybe not. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that was Alien Isolation. If you're a fan of the Alien franchise, you've most definitely heard of this game and you probably played it. Again, if you want to see a good video game rendition of a game in the Alien universe, this is it. I would recommend it. I recommended it then, and I still recommend it now. It still plays really well after 10 years since it was released, the time I'm making this. So there it was, Alien Isolation, people. All right, let's see what we got here for the collectibles. Did I miss something? I may have missed one. I think I got just about all the logs. Because there were a lot of them. So all the way down at the bottom. Okay, I seem to have missed log number 149. Yeah, I'll go and check that one. I think I got all the Nostromo logs. Yep, got them all. Should be 10 of them. Got those. Very good. And I'm pretty sure I got all of the ID tags because I got the Taken achievement, which means you get all these. So this is A Fielding, Hutchinson, Lynch. There's Ransom. No location engineering. Freight shipping. I wonder if this is Axel Fielding. I wonder if any of these people are, I think some of them are actually developers or they're involved with the development of the game. Why does it have a little exclamation point right next to it? I don't know. We'll fix that though. Okay, that was all the missing persons. And there's the map. Okay. So I gotta look for that, that 149. Wonder what that is. Anyway. All right, people, that'll do it.